I'm at Sandalford, an institution in the Swan Valley and one of the oldest wineries in Western Australia. There's a lot going on here, from delicious wines to great food and weddings, so I'm keen to go and have a look. We're continuing our journey down the west coast of Australia, and our next stop is one of the most popular. Just 25 minutes from Perth, the Swan Valley is the perfect getaway for all things food and wine. The Swan Valley has a warm Mediterranean-style climate and rich fertile soils, so it's no surprise the region has claimed its spot as a leading producer of a vast range of premium wines. And what better place to start than Sandalford, one of the state's oldest wineries. There's a lot to see here, and first up I'm meeting Grant to get a quick rundown. Over a generous glass of wine, of course. So Grant, you're the CEO here at Sandalford. How long have you been here for?
I've been here for coming on for 20 years. It's been a fantastic journey. It's a lot of great experiences and fantastic memories along the way.
I bet, because this is a place that has so much history.
Well, this is one of the original vineyards of Western Australia, and our history dates back to the time of British settlement. In fact, the colony of Perth was established in June of 1829, and the first ship that came to that colony was the Parmelia. On board was Captain Stirling, and the second in command was a fellow by the name of John Septimus Roe, and he was the original Surveyor General of Western Australia. And in 1840, the then Queen of England granted, that was Queen Victoria of course, she granted him 4,000 acres of land here in the Swan Valley, and that was the beginning of the Sandalford story. So 182, 183 years later, and here we are.
Gosh, still producing wine and a good time for everybody.
Wine tourism has become a really important part of our business model.
Some 250,000 people visit Sandalford every year, which hurts my head just thinking about. You've got the Cellar Door, restaurants, weddings, functions, and also massive concerts out on the grass. Well, it sounds like there's a lot for me to experience, so I might head off and meet the rest of the team, but thank you so much.
Thank you, fantastic, thank you.
I think we should launch straight into a tasting. So I'm meeting head winemaker Ross in the barrel hall. So Ross, you're the senior winemaker here. What got you interested in wine to begin with?
Food.
Food.
I had a crazy notion of wanting to be a chef early in my life, and well, at the same time discovered wine and thought I'd really like to know how this is made and make it myself.
Yeah, and that took you down the journey.
Yeah, so I got into the wine industry in the late 80s, just at the legal drinking age, and within a year I was over in France. Came back to Western Australia.
Wow, and those influences of travelling overseas and studying, how do you think that's affected what you create now?
Just gives you a broader perspective on what you can achieve rather than go straight down the narrow path, so widely drinking.
Yeah. And I'm interested to hear about what your ideas are when you create. Have you got an end taste in mind when you start?
My main objective is really to make a wine that expresses the variety and where it's from.
So all of the wines you create are really embedded in and for Swan Valley.
Exactly, and especially at Sandalford, these are effectively single vineyard wines off our old vine resources, which was planted in the middle of last century.
Well, that sounds all very intriguing. I'd love to have a taste if you could talk me through some.
Sure.
Yeah.
So our 1840 range is created to reflect our origins in the valley.
First up, the Verdelho. Originally grown for the production of fortified wines off the coast of Portugal, it's now most popular in Australia as a dry white wine with hints of citrus and tropical fruits.
Best way to describe Verdelho is like fruit salad in a glass. So by way of background, it's a variety that's made to use Madeira. And this is where the cuttings would have been taken when they were setting up the colony in Perth. So they would have been originally planted to make fortifieds, and as the drinking trend emerged away from fortifieds into table wines, it was the late Jack Mann who I believe made the first dry table wine out of Vidello in the valley, and the trend continued, and the two biggest producers were Horton and both Sandalford. So this is for you.
Yeah, gorgeous
So this is our 2022 Vidello. In terms of the way it's made, it's 100% tank fermented, with the idea that you're making the wine in an inert environment, so there's no influence of oak. In terms of making, there's a small amount of lees maturation, and that builds the texture in the wine. Generally bottled pretty early, about middle of the year, and then it's in the market a couple of months later. Spot on for spring and summer.
Perfect. And would you say this is a type of variety that maybe even if people aren't traditional wine drinkers, they can really enjoy?
For sure. This is what I call a veranda style. It doesn't necessarily demand food. It can be drunk on its own. In fact, any wine can be drunk on its own.
Well, yes.
People who like Chardonnay might be keen on this because it's quite a textural wine. And also, like I mentioned, the fruit salad aromas just makes it this appealing, wanting another bottle when you finish it.
Oh, that's making me thirsty.
So you can see the flavours are quite bright and crisp, but there's also a textural element to the wine.
Definitely, yeah. I can see what you mean about the fruit salad in a glass.
Yeah, so think tropical fruits like guava, pineapple, lychee.
Yeah. Very, I mean, I think you could drink it any season, but definitely I could feel the summer rays on me when I'm just drinking this. It's really nice and bright. In fact, let's do just that. I'm taking the Vidello out into the vines to chat with Ben, the vineyard manager. So Ben, you're the vineyard manager here. How long have you been working at Sandalford Wines?
I've been here for 25 years now.
Wow.
Yeah, so I came pretty much straight from school.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And what drove you to get into the industry?
My parents showed me the right way to go. They basically, we had some farms down in Mount Barker, so farming was one of the things I always loved to do as a child. So Mum thought, well, you'd love to work in vineyards, and she brought me down to the Swan Valley, and yeah, that was the start of it all.
I love that. So always in the Swan Valley too?
Always in the Swan Valley.
And what do you think sets the Swan Valley region apart from some of the other regions?
Oh, look, we have these lovely alluvial soils through the Swan here, so we have the richness of the soil, lovely warmth here to work with as well. We do grow Chenin and Vidello, which are very widely known around the Swan Valley, mainly because they do retain lovely acid, and they also do handle the heat very well, being Swan Valley being a warm area to grow fruit. So they're the varietals that really suit the area. There are other varietals as well, and there's some newer varietals coming into the areas as well that really do handle the heat, with everyone knowing that we're getting warmer and warmer. So,
yeah, great. And so what do we have here? What kind of vines are we growing?
These are some of the oldest vines we have on the property actually.
Really?
These were planted in the 1960s. So, and it's actually the 1840 Vidello that we grow here. So these vines actually produce some lovely fruit, low yielding, and you know, we look to harvest these around January. So, I mean, we're quite early at the moment, so we can see a little bit of inflorescence on the vines at the moment. So we're not yet into flowering, but we'll be moving into the flowering phase in the next 3 to 4 weeks. So then we'll have a better idea of our cropping levels that we're going to have.
Yeah.
But traditionally, this block here, being about 60 years old, they do yield nice and lowly. So they do have lovely balance. So they do produce a lovely wine.
And from that, we get the end product of what we're sipping.
We do, yeah.
Delicious.
Yeah.
Don't go anywhere. More last drinks after the break. I'm at Sandalford in the Swan Valley, where it's not just about the wine. So I'm catching up with Executive Chef Alan in the award-winning restaurant. Great, so Alan, you're the Executive Chef here at the Sandalford. How long have you been working here?
I've been here for 2+ years now. I guess I started with the new development of the restaurant and this side of things. Also all the function packages, all of that. But the big redevelopment, I think I spent about $3.5 million on all the changes as far as the cellar door, the restaurant, and so yeah, I come on board for that. It was pretty exciting.
That's great. And where did your love affair with food start?
Yeah, back in my childhood, I would say, to be honest.
Yeah.
I've got an Italian background, you know, all those family gatherings. We were producing a lot of our own food, and I just remember a lot of that. Cooking with family, you know, trying stuff straight out of the garden, straight off the vine, things like that. So it started a long time ago.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming. And is it that sharing that you love, creating something?
I do love that. I like, it's like produce. It all starts with the produce for me. So when you're getting great produce that is local, fresh, off the vine, it's in season, you just can't beat it.
Yeah, definitely.
It just makes my job easy. It's one of the things that drew me to this position in the first place was the open kitchen and how open it was and the connection we have with the customer. Just that interaction with the customer every day, seeing their faces, seeing their reactions, you know, talking to them. You are interacting with the customer every day.
You're not disconnected, you're right there.
That's right.
And it's special for the customers too, to be able to see you and all your team working.
Yeah. There's a level of expectation as soon as you come down the driveway here. You look, it's all beautiful, everything's pristine. So there is an expectation straight away. So for me, we're always trying to over-deliver on that.
On an average week?
On a maximum week, 4,000 covers in a week. If I've got a concert on with 2,000 VIPs, restaurant full, weddings going on, yeah, it's very hectic. We run two separate teams pretty much, a function team, a restaurant team.
Yeah.
We have a full pastry section in here. Everything gets made in-house. I think in particular, a lot of work goes into our desserts. Not many people have a focus on desserts out there anymore, so we put special attention into that.
With an emphasis on fresh, local food, the menu changes seasonally.
The menu process isn't a short one. We go through dishes with all the staff. We do a testing on every dish prior to it. It might take 2 or 3 times to tweak it to get it how we want. But it's a large process because it's not just being able to produce it once. It's being able to produce it when you've got 400 people in the restaurant.
Yeah.
You know? So to have that consistency, the work has to be done prior. When I've just finished the last menu and got it on, I start on the next menu pretty much. I've already started. I already know what's coming up, what's coming in season, so I'll start the ideas and get them down, and then when the stuff comes into season, we'll start plating and producing and working from there.
Well, I think I'll let the chefs crack on in the kitchen. Back in the barrel hall, Ross has another 1840 for me.
This is our rosé. So rosé has seen a phenomenal amount of growth in the last 10 years, come off a very low base, being a very popular wine style. This particular rosé is made from Grenache, from our Grenache planting. So Swan Valley has a history of Grenache going back over 100 years. Our vines aren't quite 100 years old. The secret of making rosé, or a good rosé, is judging the amount of time you leave the juice and skins together. So the longer you leave the juice in contact with the skins, the darker the colour it will be. Grenache is not a deeply coloured variety, so we can have probably a little bit of flex in managing our processing to get the right result. In terms of fermentation, this is also done in tank, a stainless steel tank, so we want to get the best expression of the fruit. When the fermentation's finished, we also leave a bit of time, around about 2 months on lees in tank, just to build the texture into the wine and a bit more interest, and then we'll bottle this middle of the year, perfect timing for spring.
Oh, gorgeous. It is a beautiful colour there.
Lovely pale colour, it's what we call pale salmon pink. And you think rose petals, light strawberry character. The key to picking this is waiting to get the flavour ripeness. So what we do is pick for rosé, maybe in the second week of February, and out of the same vineyard block we'll leave the fruit on the vines for another fortnight, get more sugar and more colour to make a dry red, but we want to really nail that window to make a beautiful, bright, fresh rosé.
You're a scientist.
Well, it was a science degree I did.
Yes, very much so. That precision, it really pays off.
Beautiful summer drink. And also, never be afraid to put some ice blocks in this. There's enough flavour to carry that dilution and it'll keep your wine cold.
That's really delicious. It's a gorgeous flavour and gorgeous colour too.
Might as well take this one out to Ben too.
Now these vines look a lot younger.
Yeah, these were planted in 2018. So this was a variety, Grenache, which is really starting to take off again. It was quite popular in the Swan Valley In the earlier days, it went through a bit of a lull, but it seems to be coming right back now. It goes into our rosé currently, yes.
Wow.
This is the finished product, yeah.
And so what stage are the vines in at the moment?
Well, at the moment, they're basically showing their inflorescence. So they're moving towards flowering. So this particular variety, Grenache, tends to throw a lot of fruit, so it's quite a prolific cropper. So we've just got to be careful here with how much fruit we actually do get off these
wow.
vines. So we do actually go through and we make sure that we clean up some of the shoots off them. So we take a number of shoots off, which we're actually going to be going through and doing this very shortly, actually, probably in the next couple of days. So we go through and take off what we think in order to get the right balance. So it's all about getting the quality in the fruit.
Lovely. And what's it like working with a newer vine compared to those older vines?
Well, they need a little bit more work and a bit more. Basically, we need to go through and work them a little bit harder because they're finding themselves, so we've got to make sure they go in the right direction. So the older vines have already found themselves generally because they've been there for such a long period of time. So they are easy to look after. The cropping levels are easier to set with the younger vines, and the different varietals also play a role.
And what about the soil here?
The soil, we have some lovely alluvial soils here. So it's dark, rich soils, beautiful soil. So it makes us easier to irrigate too because it takes on the water very well. It's very nutritious. So we do get good sized canopies and we have good vigour. So it's not a problem to have. It's a good problem to have.
It's a good problem. This soil is very exciting for someone like you.
It is. It's lovely. Yep.
That's wonderful.
Sandalford is not just about the wine, but the experience. So I'm chatting to Bridget about what's on offer.
So what place does Sandalford hold in the Swan Valley community?
Very, very strong reputation here in Perth in the Swan Valley. It is often the first or the last port of call for a lot of our guests.
It's hard to believe we're only 15 minutes from the airport. Talk about convenience.
This is our beautiful alfresco area, a fairly recent addition. We've pretty much doubled our capacity by providing this space.
Wow.
It's also a perfect spot to bring the kids.
There's no traffic through here, so families can come, they can sit out in our alfresco area, the children are safe, they can play, mum and dad can drink wine and have a lovely old time.
They can have a good time.
Yeah.
Inside, the Cellar Door.
Welcome to our Cellar Door experience. We have, as you can see, a beautiful merchandise experience here, complimentary tasting for all restaurant guests. A really great way to showcase what we do here at Sandalford. Absolutely.
There's some beautiful spaces inside.
So this is the vintage room, our private dining room. Perfect space if you want something a little bit more special. At Sandalford, we can cater up to 36 people in here, seated function. Just a bit exclusive, as you can see, a beautiful outlook and a lovely just extension of something just a little bit more special. We do a lot of, signature events in here, baby showers. We've done small weddings, milestone birthday celebrations, but it is a beautiful space.
As well.
Absolutely, this is our stateroom. Absolutely beautiful space that opens out onto the vineyards, overlooking the lake. Seats up to 400 guests. We've probably got around 150 weddings booked in this room.
Amazing.
Over the next 12 months, so it's very popular. And the beautiful landscape sort of, outside, the bones of the room are beautiful. It's a very, very popular space.
There's an enormous deck around the back, perfect for a drink and a stroll out onto the lawns.
So this is our Merlot lawn. It stretches out over the expanse of the estate. We quite often have guests arrive here by helicopter, by boat from the nearby Swan River, by limousine. So there's lots of, beautiful luxury options, or you can just catch an Uber.
Yeah.
One day I must really return in a helicopter. Oh well, until then, I think it's time for the last glass with Ross.
The end of our tasting journey. So what do we have here?
So we have a Shiraz here. We have two red varieties we grow in our vineyard, Cabernet Sauvignon and Shiraz. Shiraz is still the #1 most widely drunk by variety in the world.
Wow.
To make a reference, I guess our style is not too dissimilar to what the Hunter Valley does. When you think about the climatic situation, that probably makes sense. So our Shiraz comes off old plantings.
Do you recommend to have your Shiraz with any particular food pairing? Anything.
That's an interesting question. We had a degustation dinner and actually paired it with fish. Rankin cod with pancetta on top with a nice rich cream sauce, and that actually went superbly well. When I was introducing the dish and the wine to the paying customers, they were sort of a bit, what, red and white? I said, yes, we're here to break convention. And once people tried it, they went, wow, yeah, it does work.
Now I feel like I'm going to experiment myself.
So the Swan Valley style typically is slightly lighter in colour. It's very spicy, so it's lovely berry fruit, and there's a slight earthiness to it as well.
Yeah.
So in terms of making it, we make this in small open fermenters. When the ferment's completed, we'll press it off to tank and then drain it out to barrel. It spends about 12 months in barrel, roughly around 10% new oak. So what we're seeing is more of a fruit expression style, and then bottled in the middle of the following year.
Yeah. Smells amazing.
So this particular Shiraz is unique in the valley, that we have this like a dried rosemary character, which I don't really see in a lot of the other vineyards. It's just one of these unique things that we get from a single vineyard site like our Caversham site. So in a lineup you go, oh, there you go, that's the Sandalford one.
Yeah, it really stands out. Oh yeah, I could definitely taste it in the end notes, a bit of that dry rosemary. But that is a gorgeous sip, and the smell as well. Definitely smell a bit of that rosemary. I think you're not making that up.
Also for the consumers who like to cellar their wine or have do have the environment to cellar it well,
Yeah.
it will hold for 10 to 15 years quite easily.
Oh, lovely. So a gorgeous present for someone too, to keepsake.
That's it, yeah.
A
We
little
need some
bit too
fish.
easy to drink. It's always a good sign.
That is a good sign. Well, wine philosophy is about making wine drinkability. And this certainly, the 1840 range has that.
Definitely comes through in all of the varieties.
Yeah. There's two other wines we make in this. We make a Chenin Blanc, which is also a mainstay of the Swan Valley, and also a Cabernet. And that would make up our little portfolio of 1840.
Well, thank you so much, Ross, for having me and showing me through these delicious wines.
Oh, you're welcome. It was a pleasure. Cheers.
Well, I've been truly spoilt here at Sandalford and I've had a great time, but our journey continues. So tune in for the next episode of Last Drinks Western Australia.
Next time on Last Drinks, I'm changing it up and I'm visiting a very unique brewery using technology to deliver the freshest beer possible. See you next time.